I'm happiest in the saddle.
A fellow sportsman.
I am an FBI agent!
Hey, Scott!
What do you say we cut the chit-chat? A-hole!
Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria!
Come with me if you want to live.
Hello, and welcome to Retro Ramble. I'm Charlie McGee.
I'm George McGee.
And this time, dear Ramblers, dear fans and listeners alike, it is a new year. It is the year 2025. And you know what we do when we pass into another year. George and I like to take a look back at this year previous. And also sometimes we will even talk about what's to come. But first off, George, what can people expect to hear in this episode? And by the way, Happy New Year to you, brother.
Happy New Year, brother. Yes, in true McGee fashion, we can't get ourselves organised to do this in December because we've got too much on going in December. It's Christmas, Theo. It's a time of miracles. So, yes, we are looking back on the year of 2024 and talking about what we saw. There was... spoiler alert, I don't think it was a great year for cinema. I mean, obviously, the whole... As we continue to talk about the whole sort of paradigm, the whole cinemascape, filmscape has changed with streaming. Less people seem to be going to the cinema. But yeah, we'll talk about what we have seen, what we enjoyed, what we didn't enjoy. There's been a lot of what I've categorized as nostalgia bait, some of which we've talked about on our Patreon channel.
Member berries.
Remember this? Do you recognize the logo? Have you heard of Beetlejuice? What about the girl from Wednesday? You remember her? She was just in something last year. So yeah, and then there's quite a few things that we may have missed. So, and then there's also might touch a little bit on what we've been streaming on TV as well.
Or just stuff that we've forgotten and then we've just remembered about. So yes, it's a review. It's a review of 2024. Thank you for listening throughout 2024. And I think if you hear us say, check out the episode, it's because we're probably mentioning a film that we've talked about in a lot more detail on a separate episode, which you can check out and should be listed in the show notes. So George, anything else you want to say before we get into it?
Because these are new-ish films, obviously in the past year, we will try and steer away from any major spoilers, but we're under the assumption that you're film fans like us, and you will have seen most of these films, if not all of them and more.
If you like these films, you should have seen them by now. We are covering the films of 2024. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into it. So George, I don't know what list you've got prepared. Are you really organized and you're going to do it chronologically, or are you just going to do films you like? Are we going to do the ones we didn't like? How are we going to do it?
I think let's talk about the ones we liked. I haven't done it chronologically. I struggle to say that word.
Everybody does.
I haven't done it in order. However, the first big film I can think of, and it's probably my blockbuster of the year, and most importantly, you and I got to see it together.
Sonic 3.
It's not Sonic 3. It is Dune Part 2, or should I say Part 2, because we saw it in Gay Paris.
But what an epic, what the cinema was made for. And reading some of the reviews, I don't know if this is to start George off, better than the first. We're getting into that sequelitis, but yeah, an absolute spectacle of a film. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought, the first one was such an epic film. The soundscape was amazing. The visuals, everything. It was, epic on all scales. And like a lot of Denis Villeneuve's films, they're not for everyone. But I thoroughly enjoyed the first one, and yeah, as you say, it was a high benchmark for the second. But yeah, if it's more epic than the first, it's got more action. The characters are developed. They're going on. It's great to see Paul Atreides' journey, and it's just got some iconic shots in it and scenes. I mean, even that. I think it's one of the. It's already quickly becoming an iconic shot from the opening where was it the Harkonnens on their jetpacks, like just silently gliding up to that mountain peak. Just, yeah, with the gladiatorial thing. Yeah,
it's all shot in a very weird filter.
Monochrome, yeah. It's really unique. It's really epic. But as I say, it's Denis Villeneuve, and it might be too epic and long and drawn out for some. I will say, obviously, you and I saw it together in Paris. Because there's lots of Sand speak or Freeman speak, I didn't get the French subtitles because my French is pretty poor. So I had to sort of struggle with that. But then I did see it fairly quickly a second time after with a friend in the UK. And I think in some ways, because the film's quite long and slow, it did feel like a bit more of a slog second time round. But I think that's because I didn't leave like enough time between viewings.
I've done that with some of Christopher Nolan films where I've loved it so much, I've gone back to see it again and it's felt heavy.
Yeah,
second time, and I'm just like, I've probably seen it too soon.
I did that also with The Batman, the Matt Reeves Patterson one.
But that's already far too long as a film.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I love that film, but Charlie Edit forthcoming, I could remake that film and I could give you back 25 minutes of your life and I would take nothing away from that film.
Well, to put it this way, I own it. I've got it in like 4K on iTunes.
Let's do it. Let me crack out
but I haven't watched it since I saw it twice at the cinema because I just don't have the energy. I love it. I think it's a great film, but it's just too bloody long. It's too slow. It's
the lingering shots. It's like, there's not enough studio execs going in the room saying, do we really need to look at the same handlebar, wrist holding a handlebar dripping with water for 17 seconds? Do we really need that? So yeah, that film, but I still love that film. I look forward to going back to it.
Giving it time to settle, like a big meal. You got to let it digest.
So getting back to Dune, so everything was turned up to 11. I don't know what you do to Hans Zimmer to get him. No, Hans, I need more Zimmer, more. I need a Zimmer to the 11. But just delivers. I listened to that score from the first film. It actually popped up in a bit of a classical music playlist that I looked up on a streaming site, aka Spotify, and they dropped it into that, and it's because it just goes in with it's epic. It's separate from film. But yeah, I haven't actually gone back. I've been holding what we're just talking about this very second. I've been holding off going to watch Dune 2 again. I've got it on 4K. I got the limited metal box thing, and I'm just holding off watching it again. I want everybody to be out of the house so I can turn up the home cinema to 11 and deafen myself.
One more thing that we obviously need to mention, as it is Retro Ramble, we haven't mentioned the fact that Christopher Walken is in this film as Space Emperor, and it's very distracting. It's one of the one sort of weak points, I would say, of the film, that I don't think Christopher Walken doesn't really bring much of his menace or zaniness, Walkenness to the movie, and it's just kind of like stunt casting, like, that's Christopher Walken, and he just doesn't really have much to do in it. Would you agree?
Were you getting my little channeling of Walken there in my impression before? Yes, Chip. So yeah, I feel like, I don't know if you and I joked about this, but a real missed opportunity, because in his role in this film, there was definitely scope in the character for him to go eccentric. He could have had a 15 minutes of Walken, a 15-second ramble. We're like, oh my God, he's losing it. But he could have gone full, the guy we know.
Yeah, I don't know if they are, because it's the comparisons to the other Space Emperor, that the famous good old Sheev Palpatine, that obviously George Lucas liberally borrowed from Frank Herbert. Yeah, maybe it's a distance thing, that it's more of a quieter sort of approach than a menacing, cackling pantomime villain. But yeah, it just felt a bit weirder. Like, if you're gonna get Christopher Walken, really make use of him. Let him explore the space, baby. Come on.
There was something. He could have had an interchange with his daughter, completely separate from everything. There could have just been a little something, it's, I don't know, I just felt like...
a 3-minute dance sequence, that's all I'm asking for.
Dances with aliens. But this, I think we're talking about it in this much depth because I think it probably was our highlight of the year.
Yes. Yeah, for me, I think it is film of the year. It's as I say, to go back to my earlier point, it's a real rarity these days to see like proper films for the cinema and remind you why it's worth going to the cinema. And it is one of those films that it needs to be seen on the biggest screen and biggest sound setup.
So there it is. Check it out. Whilst we're up here in the higher echelons of the creme de la creme, would it be fair to say we should talk about something like Alien Romulus or Gladiator? Where would you set your sights on the next best film of last year for you?
Maybe let's segue into Gladiator 2, because obviously there was a gladiatorial fight in Dune 2. There's your tenuous link there.
You know what there also was, George? There was once a dream that was Rome. You could whisper it.
Has anyone mentioned Rome in the past 5 minutes? Or Marcus Aurelius' dream of Rome?
If anybody mentions any of these things, drink.
Does anyone remember any of the dialogue from the first Gladiator? I think I wrote it on a napkin. This is all I've got for my movie script. Yes, so we haven't talked about Gladiator 2 on properly, or we haven't really shared our thoughts. I don't have your thoughts. I've shared my thoughts with you because I took our father to see it. I thought it was an enjoyable cinematic experience, but a pale imitation or facsimile, carbon copy in terms of, what are the key beats of the first Gladiator and how can we do it with Son of Gladiator?
Yeah, so...
Why didn't they call it Son of Gladiator?
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Gladiator Legacy. Better than...
A bit too on the nose?
Yeah, but better than Gladiator 2. This isn't the 90s. You don't call films 2 anymore.
I think people need to do it more. I mean, Sonic 3, Gladiator 2, bring it back, I say.
And also, to be fair, no, but I think, did they actually use Roman numerals?
They did. They did. So
they did. I mean, they kind of had to. And they were just lying around. So, God, it's a shame. We missed a trick there. We should have got Ray, our dad, on if you'd been to see it with him. So, for me, yeah, what is there to start? I was like, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. So, I think, am I right? It was 2000, the first film?
Yes.
So, and I think we had Andrew Hughes on the...
No, it was just you. It was just you and I. I know it's one of his favourite films, but
I know that he would have loved to have been on. But like, I can remember going back and watching that. I think I had it on Blu-ray when we were, and just like still being blown away.
Yeah, like if anything, it's got better.
Yeah, like 20 odd years later, and then you just like so. Okay, so let's talk about this film. This film is 70% of that film, I would say. High 60s. But that film's one of the best films ever made.
Yeah.
I'd say that to Ridley Scott. It is one of the best films of our generation, in our lifetimes, ever made.
I'd agree. It's a fantastic film, the original. And yeah, obviously it's a tough one to beat, and it does feel... like this one does feel very much like a legacy sequel of, it's very much like, okay, well, we've got the initial battle, but how do we make that more interesting? Oh, let's put in some weird baboons that look really fake. How do we make the Colosseum battles more epic? Let's add in sharks and boats. And the Denzel Washington character is a very amped up camp more villainous version of Oliver Reed. And I mean, I thought Denzel Washington was...
It was his film.
It was his film. He was brilliant in it. He made everyone else... And, I think Paul Mescal is a good actor in the other films I've seen him in, but I just felt he was a bit one note in this. He didn't have that Crow gravitas.
Yeah, they're obviously trying to make him... He did look like, to be fair, right? I agree with what you're saying, but he was very believable at being the son of Max.
Yes, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because he spoke the same, he fought the same, kind of looked the same, kind of did the same, went through the same beats in the film.
Wore the same armor for reasons.
Yeah, I mean, when that whatever they call it, such and such's gun, when that was shown, I was like, well, he's going to be putting that on by the end of the film somehow.
Chekhov's armor.
Chekhov's armor. Let's call it that. So, yeah, do you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the last Indiana Jones film. Because I was like, it's fine, and it's been too long. It's maybe shouldn't, but that was a good film,
well, I would say in the same way with the Indiana Jones films, like, yeah, this is all really entertaining, but I can tell they've done so much of it digitally.
Yeah.
Whereas in the first one, they did it practically, and yes, you can say, oh well, it's cost cutting and what have you. And apparently, I read something that Ridley Scott, because he's just a machine, an insane genius, he has I think someone said 17 different camera setups for one take. And what they do is they edit out via CGI all the camera cables and stuff that might be picked up in other shots.
Yeah. So
he can go in and say, right, I'm going to use that shot and all about the editing. And you can say, okay, yeah, he's being very revolutionary and using the technology as a tool to his advantage, but it's almost like cheapening the sort of the filmmaking style of setting up a shot and the cinematography and everything for a specific shot, rather than saying, well, I've got 17 different cameras, what's the best one?
Well, we talked about it a moment before, talking about Denis Villeneuve, when he makes that shot at the start of Dune, does he know that he's making an iconic shot? Yes, I think when he sees it,
yeah,
I think he sees that's an iconic shot. When he's setting it up, I'm not sure he does. I'm not sure. Do you know? I think he's that much of an author.
Well, I don't know. They've got
well, I'm not taking anything away from Ridley, by the way. One of the greatest directors there is.
Yeah, and a great visualist as well. And I think that's it. For someone that's in his late 80s and showing no signs of slowing down and no signs of caring about what he offending anybody. I love Ridley Scott for his pulling no punches. So yeah, it was entertaining. It's not a patch on the first film, but yeah, it's fine.
No, but it's fine. It's fine. No, so my point is that I went to see this at the cinema with my wife and also a mate who was. There was a few, it was supposed to be a nights out and plans changed. We're like, let's just go to the bloody cinema and see Gladiator 2. But I was glad to have gone to see it with people, with friends, so it's, it was a, what do you call it, an event movie?
Yeah, and again, I'm glad I saw it on a big screen with a bunch of people rather than sat at home by myself.
Yeah, busy cinema as well, because I was late to the party, Richter. Yeah. I was very late, and it was, I would say, half full auditorium, which these days is saying something. If you're 2 or 3 weeks late to a film like Gladiator, it was still pulling in the people. So
yeah,
I will check with contacts at Paramount, but I think it's probably performed rather well.
Yeah, I don't think it's done as gangbusters as they thought it was, but I think it's done decent numbers.
But all of the numbers have been skewed off from what Marvel have done. Yeah, because that's the benchmark, and it's nonsense. Because people go to see Marvel films 5 times,
But but they're also still, everyone's spending huge amounts on these films now as well.
Yeah.
So let's talk. Well, on that note, let's take a sideways step to more of a cheaply made film, a film that was originally destined for streaming. Another sort of legacy sequel or interquel, Alien Romulus.
Ah, yes. And also linked with Ridley Scott. Ridley
Yes.
Scott kind of up in the treehouse throwing conkers down on the director who was making this. But yeah, he was kind of around, wasn't he?
He produced it. There's bits you can tell. He's shared some notes, and I don't want to get into too much spoilery territory on this film if people haven't seen it yet. Charlie and I talked about it at length on our Patreon channel. So if you have seen Romulus and want to hear our thoughts, it seems to have really mixed reviews online.
Bad timing for me, I think.
Really? In what way?
No. Well, I don't understand why the film wasn't more successful. I mean, it was in the middle of the summer.
Yeah.
But I just don't think people were in the mood for a blockbuster. I know it sounds really counterintuitive to say that, but do you know what I mean? I think this was the, correct me if I'm wrong, this was one of the blockbusters of the summer.
Yeah, I think it was released quite late because it was released in August, and I kind of feel like if you're not first, you're last. I feel if you don't come out in that sort of early May slot, May, June, then, people are on holiday, and that's why I almost missed it at the cinema, because it came out and I was like, oh crikey, I don't want to, and spoilers, and that's the problem with a lot of films these days. It's so much, if you don't see it in the first week, it doesn't have to be a Marvel film, but if you don't see it in the first week, you've got dickheads or desperate journalists spoiling it on the internet for headlines. But no, I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a really affectionate nod to the whole Alien franchise. Mostly good. I think sometimes a bit too slavishly. I don't think you needed to reference every single Alien film, which it pretty much does. I think it was a great tense thriller. I really, really loved it up until about the last 20 minutes, where I felt it just went a bit too far and got a bit too silly. So yeah, I knock off a star for that. So it's a 4, not a 5-star film for me.
Yeah. But I mean, if you want to hear more about what George and I have to think about that, check out our Patreon channel, because due to the way that we've got it set up, you can definitely listen to a couple of episodes for free before you have to sign up. So be sure to check it out.
Oh, okay.
What's next?
Beverly Hills Cop Axel F was a genuine... Yeah. Do they play that at all? Was a genuine surprise. I didn't expect it to be that much fun, enjoyable. It's the third best Beverly Hills Cop film out of 4. So,
but why didn't you expect much of it? Because I'm not surprised it was good because of Dolomite and Eddie Murphy. I'm not that surprised it was good, because I felt what I saw was really genuine, and I just felt like he had more control over it than he did.
I don't know. I just felt that obviously coming to America had some good and I think you and I enjoyed that more than most people, probably because we watched it together and we'd had a couple of drinks.
We were drunk.
We were cuddling on the sofa drunk. But yeah, I just think there's so many like legacy sequels that can just fumble the ball and do the, as you say, the South Park thing of member berries. Remember this? And Axel F does that a little bit, mainly through soundtrack. You hit over the head with all the tracks from the first 2 films. And Eddie Murphy is like, whilst he's done Dolomite, he has done some stinkers as well. Like he has done some patchy stuff. I watched that awful Christmas film he did, Candy Cane Lane, was it?
No.
But yeah, no, it's an enjoyable, nice throwback. It's suited for streaming. And I think we said this in the review. I think it probably would have struggled if it was at the cinema.
Agreed. Which brings me to my next point, moving swiftly on. What was the streaming film that we thought should have gone out at the cinema this year?
Streaming film that should have gone to the cinema?
Yeah. Was it Roadhouse?
Roadhouse, yes. Well, that was the one where the director, Doug Liman, thought he was under the impression it was going to cinema, even though it was being made by Amazon. And Amazon were like, no.
Yeah, of course it is. It's going out to the cinema.
Well, no, they said they'd give him more money, but it would go straight to streaming because the money they'd save through marketing and screening, what have you. But yeah, Roadhouse. Jake Gyllenhaal's Roadhouse. Not as sweaty or sexy as the Patrick Swayze one. Not as camp, not as fun, but a good sort of crunchy sort of actioner, wasn't it?
Yeah, and like, am I right? I mean, we also cover this in a Patreon episode, so check that out. But highlight of that was, who did you suggest could play? Who's his mate in the original? The Double Deuce. Who's the Sam Shepard? Who's the Sam? You suggested
Keanu.
Keanu Reeves as would be an amazing. Imagine Keanu Reeves and Jake Gyllenhaal kicking ass, taking names, but being nice about it. Yeah,
Keanu Reeves as the wizened mentor. I think that would be awesome. But
passable. But I don't know. I don't know. What's the word I'm looking for? Over time, I guess streaming was probably a wise choice for that film. It probably would have. It's all about performance, isn't it?
Yeah, it's funny, like, you know, those films that would have been the cornerstone of the 80s cinema, like the original Roadhouse and all the sort of Stallone, Schwarzenegger stuff that, you know, drew in the Friday night crowds. It's funny, how that, I say that, it's shifted now with streaming and everything, that less people are going to the cinema because, going to cinema, it's not a cheap endeavour.
But flipping it and staying in nostalgia town, there was one film.
Another belated sequel.
If you say his name twice, he will not be on streaming. He will go straight to the cinema. Yeah,
that did gangbusters. I think it's Warner Brothers. I think Dune might be its most successful blockbuster, but Beetlejuice is I think smashed sort of any expectations that they were expecting. I thought you told me it was like the most successful film Warner Brothers have done since Harry Potter. Maybe against the budget, because it would have cost a lot less than Dune. So maybe it's I think it might be their most profitable film of the year.
Yeah.
But Dune obviously has taken in more money, but cost more money. Wow.
Just for the bass and Hans Zimmer's bass subwoofer.
But yeah, Beetlejuice, a lot of fun, a bit messy, a bit scrappy. Again, we've covered it on Patreon. We love Michael Keaton. We love all the returning cast. Justin Theroux as the slimy bad guy is great.
Our highlight.
He's the highlight of it. So, and it's the most fun that Tim Burton has. You can tell that he's really enjoying himself. So hopefully this is giving him a bit of mojo back. But as we said, because based on those numbers, we wouldn't be surprised if they quickly get a third one out.
Yeah, and in terms of Tim Burton's mojo, good to see Monica Bellucci.
The guy who does well.
Yeah, she's his muse. Thank you very much. So expect more. And then for me, the big shock in that film, the one I didn't see coming, that George didn't prepare me for, was the little cameo from Danny DeVito.
Yes, yeah. Well, actually, speaking of Monica Bellucci, as much as I love Monica Bellucci, I would say she is the weakest link in that film. She is the one subplot too many. But I think a lot of people have flagged that.
How could you say no to her, though?
I couldn't and I wouldn't. And we'll just leave it there before I get too smutty. One legacy sequel that I don't think you have seen. I saw it on a plane because I thought it deserved that.
That means it could.
Was Ghostbusters Frozen Empire.
Oh, please kill me now.
So I went into this. I saved it for a plane watch and went into it with the lowest expectations, and I was almost in a way kind of surprised that I enjoyed it more than I thought I did. And I think I didn't enjoy the last one, Ghostbusters Afterlife. I think I felt that was a bit too much of a hit you over the head. Remember this sequel, trying to sort of cash in on Stranger Things market whilst trying to be a loose remake of the first one. But I kind of enjoyed this, maybe because it was back in New York. It killed a couple of hours on the plane, so yeah, it was all right. Better than I thought it would be.
That's almost a recommendation, ladies.
Almost a recommendation, but it's just like, it's not really adding anything new. And the new cast aren't really as likable as, you can tell that, like, Bill Murray's just there for the paycheck and just says whatever. Like, it's just, improvising and just like, yeah, I'm just going to say what I want.
You just reminded me of that in-joke of Roadhouse, the original film, where whenever there was the love scene with Patrick Swayze, Bill Murray would ring up the actress's
the husband. This guy, he's got with your wife again. Whatever you do, don't turn on this channel.
Okay, so are we ready to leave Nostalgia Town, George?
Yes, let's leave Nostalgia Town. Well, there's the other film. I don't know if you've seen. Have you seen The Fall Guy with?
No, but me likey The Fall Guy when I was just a little boy.
You loved the
Lee
Majors.
I think I was 6 years old, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I was too young for the original Fall Guy TV show.
He had a truck and he jumped off buildings.
And he was Lee Majors, goddammit. I watched The Fall Guy. And it's one of those films that I kind of wanted to like more. And it's got amazing stunts because it's David Leitch, who former stuntman and one of the guys that created John Wick. It's got great chemistry. You've got the Ryan Gosling, the lovely Emily Blunt. They're both very beautiful people. They're both very charming. They've got great chemistry. They're both naturally funny. It's got a good cast. It's also got Aaron Taylor-Johnson. It's got is it Hannah Waddingham, the girl from Ted Lasso, and it's got some great stunts. But it feels a bit flat to me. I don't know. There's something about it that I was just like, I wanted to like it more. But I was just like, yeah, it was all right. I'm not going to rush to watch it again. The only thing is it's all set in Sydney, and it's great to see Sydney used as an action city again. Reminds me of good old Mission Impossible 2.
And Limp Bizkit, bit of new metal. Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt, the things I would let that couple do to me. I want to see this film. I'd be interested to see it for its action. It has got some good action, good set
stunts,
good
set pieces. Yeah, I don't know. It is obviously guilt as every film these days. It is a bit. It's about half an hour, 20 minutes too long. So maybe that's it. You're just a bit sort of actioned out by the end of it, and it's not like the John Wick thing. It's just and the story keeps on going, sort of thing.
But on a separate note, about the original Fall Guy, I got very confused when I was younger because the Fall Guy...
Is Lee Majors my dad?
No, not that confused. No, so in the Fall Guy, he's literally a stuntman and he's kind of a part-time detective and he does some insane stunts. But I didn't realize at the same time Lee Majors was in another show called The $6 Million Man, where he could do insane stuff. And 6-year-old Charlie got very confused and thought they were the same thing and didn't understand how one week he was able to jump off a building. Anyway, it's convoluted.
Hello, Marge. I'm Lee Majors. Will you come away with me?
Sure. I've got to stop fantasizing about Lee Majors.
But I would like to check out that film just to look at Ryan. Just the beautiful, beautiful actors in it.
Yeah, check it out. There was just something that felt a bit off about it. I can't really describe it. Another cashing in on the keeping the IP relevant one that I discovered on streaming but did get a cinema release was Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Can we just dissect that title for a second, right? Kingdom of the planet of the apes. Could just be Ape Kingdom.
Yep. Well, apparently it goes, the first reboot, they were going to call it Rise of the Apes. But then the studio and the marketing boards were like, "No, guys, people might not realize this is a Planet of the Apes film. We've got to have Planet of the Apes in the title." And so every film from then is bent over backwards to call it of the Planet of the Apes. Yeah, this film it does feel like a bit of a cash in to keep the franchise going. It's got the effects are stunning. You know, the whole Weta Digital stuff that Andy Serkis set up, the wet fur, and on this it's mainly the ape factions. There's very few humans in it. It's that, and that's how engrossing it is. But it just doesn't really add much to the whole apes mythos. And it just feels like it's trying to set up a new trilogy just to keep the wheels turning, sort of type thing. I thought it was like visually really compelling, but it just didn't really add anything new.
Okay. I'm not going to rush to see that personally.
Well, it's on Disney. I mean, you get your Disney Plus is a little bit different in France, isn't it? But you'll check it out if it's on streaming. But it's yeah.
Okay.
3 stars. The only other recommendation again, it was a plain movie, but I loved it. Was really surprised at how good it was. It's a bit art house, but Challengers. The one with Zendaya, the tennis movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I've heard everyone says it's very good.
Very sweaty, very sexy. It's got a great synthy score by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, the guys that did Social Network and stuff, the guy from Nine Inch Nails. Yeah, it's just really cool, sexy, gripping. It's like, maybe it's because I didn't really know much about it, but I just thought it was great.
Fingers fluttering.
A lot of fingers fluttering.
Thighs twitching.
Very sweaty.
All right. Well, we've talked about films which were worth a mention. I'm getting a bit hungry, George. Have we got any turkeys?
Turkey of the year for me that I paid money to go and see at the cinema because I read mixed reviews and I liked all the people in it was Argyle, Matthew Vaughan's Argyle. Obviously, it had Henry Cavill, Sam Rockwell, Bryan Cranston, Samuel Jackson,
Dua
Lipa, Bryce Dallas Howard, and many more. Matthew Vaughn has done some great films, can do some really slick, cool action, but he can also quickly travel up his own arse. He can be very self-indulgent. And this film is just an utter mess. It's trying to be far too clever for its own good throughout, and there's twist upon twist. Some of them you can see coming a mile off, and it just ends up in lots of, like in the Kingsman movies, the action sequences, he tries to make them so stylized that they just become a bit farcical and they look really fake. And it's supposed to be like a bit of a dance, but it's not. And yeah, I just came out a bit like annoyed and frustrated. So yeah, that is definitely the turkey of the year for me.
Yeah, I feel the problem with his style is that I would compare him to like Tarantino. The difference is with Tarantino, you still get the great script, the great story, and all of the great filmmaking. And the soundtrack and the actors and all of that. So even if he does disappear too much up his own arse, you still get a good film out of it. Whereas I feel like he disappears into it. He's just like, and then we're going to have this, and then we're going to have that. And I feel like he's got CGI using over CGI and in place of storytelling. That's my point. There's no story, So it's
and it's like, I'm going to be so stylish. I'm going to be like the new Tony Scott, and I'm going to create my own visual style. And it's just like he's trying too hard.
Yeah.
And he's trying too hard to create this bigger universe. Like, he didn't get the Bond job, and he's always said, "Oh yeah, I'd make a great Bond film, but they won't let me touch it," sort of type thing. And
thank God.
But yeah, he's trying to create this thing with Kingsman, and he's trying to create this bigger universe that Argyle might be part of Kingsman. And it's hilarious because this film's done so badly that there was an interview with one of the heads of Fox, and they were like, so you've got any more plans for any more Kingsman films? He's like, we're not planning to do anything with Kingsman any time in the future. So yeah, they're like, even though Argyle was made with Apple, Fox have clearly said, yeah, they don't want to do any more Kingsman films.
Well, for me, because I'd forgotten what the film was about. And I was like, oh, it popped up on it popped up on the screen. You can watch me now. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'll give it another watch. And then I got to the point where, oh, it's not real. It's actually a book. Oh, and then I just turned it off. I was like, no, this is rubbish. And also the scenes with Henry Cavill in the Jeep, and it's so CGI. It's like, okay, it's like a comic book. I get it, but it's like it's so fake.
And what have they done to beautiful Henry Cavill with his beautiful? He's got this terrible hair and terrible outfit. It's just
Anyway, what's next, George?
Before we move on to TV, there's a few films we've missed. Although you haven't told me what's your Turkey of the Year.
I feel like I haven't seen enough films to say it's therefore a Turkey. I'm just trying to think. I needed something to watch, and I watched the whole thing through. But it was one of those films that I really enjoyed watching, but I was really angry with it at the end, and it was Carry On.
I have yet to see that. So this is the Netflix one with Taron. Speaking of Kingsman, Taron Egerton. And kids, be good, be nice. It's me, Jason Bateman. But surprise, I'm a bad guy.
So anyway, I'm going to need you to go over there and get your friend and take his thing. But I've also got a sniper rifle pointed at your wife's head. So,
okay.
Just bear that in mind, okay? He's great. He is great.
We love the Bateman.
Edgerton, pick a lane, man. Just he's doing an American accent. He's doing. I don't know. I'm not going to just tear this film apart because it's slick. It's glossy. It came out when everyone's like, I need something to watch. I'm off work.
It's set at Christmas. It's a bit die-hardy. It's a bit phone boothy. That's what I can tell from.
And that's the issue I have with it. I won't spoil it because I'm sure you'll get around to watching it. It's just very derivative.
Right.
The other film that I want to talk about in terms of Turkey, because imagine you're in a cinema, you're a captive audience, you're there, you've paid for it, you're going to watch it till the end. With streaming, you do have the option to... you could skip to the end if you wanted to. And I was watching this film called Rebel Ridge, which, if you haven't seen it, is also kind of... I think we talked about this on another film, George. Rebel Ridge is the biggest advert for the police forces of the United States of America that I've ever seen. There's at least 10 minutes of dialogue devoted to talking about the benefits of the Charger, the cop car. What it can do, how it can record footage, how it's structured and how it's safe and how it's the best cop car that's ever been made and what it's like, and about police districts' budgets being drained and them having to turn to organized crime and becoming, or they didn't mean to become organized crime. It's the damn government that took away our subsidies that made us turn to organized crime. And so it's basically like a love letter to small town police districts in America. But you've got Nash Bridges, Miami Vice,
Don Johnson, who everybody loves. Don't fuck with me, I'm Don Johnson. And you've got this guy with beautiful blue eyes. Can't remember his name, but apparently... Aaron Pierre, is it Aaron Pierre?
We're friends now on Facebook. I don't know how that happened, but that was brilliant.
I'm not sure it's him, Charlie.
Shut up. I made one comment about him on Facebook and he friended me.
And he asked you to join his fan page.
It might not be him. It might be his agent, though. So this film, this trailer on Netflix, everything makes it look like it's Jack Reacher, but imagine he was ex-special forces, military police, Jack Reacher is, but it's present day, and it's somebody who isn't Jack Reacher. So you're like, okay, I'll check this out, I'll watch it. And after, it's so long. It's 2 hours and 48 minutes. And so...
Really?
I could be exaggerating. It's way over 2 hours. So I get to 1 minute 45 and I'm like, skip. And I could tell nothing was happening. Yeah. Because, on Netflix, you can go through the thumbnails and you're skipping 30 seconds and you can see actually there's literally nothing happening.
I've seen good reviews for that. I was trying to get it watched before we did this, but I just haven't had the time.
First hour and a half is fine.
Right, but then it just keeps on going. I think we'll round out, before we move on quickly, have a quick detour to TV. Films that we missed one biggie that again got mixed reviews, but some people said it was a good cinema outing, was Furiosa in the Mad Max prequel. I'm gutted. I missed that at the cinema, but yeah, I haven't got around to watching that yet. I say I've heard mixed reviews, but I do want to see it. Civil War was the not the Marvel Captain America Civil War, but this was the Alex Garland.
Meant to be very good.
Meant to be very good. Again, sort of, I've heard mixed things about it, but I do like Alex Garland as a filmmaker. The Substance is more of a horror film, but I saw the trailer for that when I was watching. It might have been Alien Romulus, and I was like, "Wow, that film looks really interesting." It's the one with Demi Moore, the one she's won the Golden Globe for.
Oh wow!
But yeah, that looks like a really dark, satirical horror film. Two more. One, probably both of which we might talk about on our Patreon at some point, but one of them is Under Paris, the Netflix shark movie, Sharks in Paris. I really want to see that, and I think you and I could have a lot of fun with it. And then the other film that I think is on your list of wanting to see is Indian John Wick. It's Dev Patel's Monkey Man. It's supposed to be, again, wasn't at the cinema for very long.
Can't wait to see that.
But it's supposed to be very good.
I'm glad to see him doing that.
Yeah. I'm very interesting. It just looks very, very slick. So yeah, want to see that sooner or later. But let's have a little detour into TV. One thing you and I have both recently finished, which we really enjoyed, was Blue Eye Samurai.
Yes, and I think linking back to, we can talk about that in a minute, Terminator Zero as well, is that the surprise about how much money and high-level acting is going into these productions. Because George and I were very surprised to see that in the cast there was none other.
Yeah, the cast for Blue Eye Samurai, I was like, I'm definitely can recognize some famous voices. I quickly recognize George Takei, Mr. Zulu. Yeah. But it's got a great cast, and it's got an Irish bad guy, and that is none other than Sir Kenneth Branagh.
His performance made my eyes weep.
Yeah, he's great in it. It's obviously got our friend from the original Mortal Kombat, Kari Tagawa.
One of my favourite characters in that as well, Swordfather.
Yeah, no, it's a few people recommended it to me, and it took me a while to get round to it, but I'm so glad I did. It's visually stunning. It's got some great storytelling, great characters, great action, choreography. It's got everything, and like Netflix are smashing it with the animation, as you say, with that, with Terminator Zero. You and I aren't fans of it, but a lot of people have raved about the Arcane series as well. It's on Netflix as well.
I keep my fingers trembling, fluttering over that button because it keeps getting shown to me, and it's like for kids, but it's ultra violent. Is that right?
Yeah, well, it's based on League of Legends game, so yeah, it's got a huge fan base, but it's supposed to be brilliant. But yeah, Blue Eye Samurai, I think, couldn't really sort of fault it.
What you should take as your guiding point is just the warning that comes up when it starts, because it just goes in the top under Netflix. It's like sex, violence, sexual violence. It's sold.
It's very graphic, very graphic.
Sexy. There's a lot of cocks and boobs flapping about, and lots of decapitations, limbs being lost, lots of blood. It's all animated. It's just violence.
So yeah, really enjoyed that. I think we both saw The Gentleman, Guy Ritchie's The Gentleman.
What are we talking about here? The film or the series? We're talking about the series now, because I enjoyed the film that inspired this, with Matthew McConaughey and had that chick from Downton Abbey and Hugh Grant.
Yes, a sleazy journalist guy.
It's a good film, and I have said it before in the podcast. I will say it again. Guy Ritchie, I feel like he's knows what he should be doing. No more Knights of the Round Table crap. This is what he's good at. And my wife and I sat down with and enjoyed watching this series throughout. It's a great, as she described it, it's like making being a criminal cool again, you know, and it is. It's organized crime can be fun if you connected, got people on the inside.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like the film was a bit Guy Ritchie almost becoming a parody of himself. It's always like everything gets wrapped up in a nice, neat bow at the end. Sort of, all those loose ends cancel each other out, sort of type thing. But no, really enjoyed the series. I thought it expanded on the idea. I thought it had some great characters. It was very funny. It was very shocking. It was very violent. It's got a great cast.
Definitely improves upon the film. I mean, the film is the name, and then he runs with it, and it's so much more. It shows what streaming can do for a weak idea.
Yeah, and it's got some great twists and turns. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and me and my wife enjoyed it, even though she is quite squeamish with that kind of stuff.
Can I just throw this out here before we move on?
Yeah,
not my suggestion. My wife said he'd make a good Bond.
Theo James, yeah, no, I think his name's been thrown into the mix. I think so. He's got
he could bulk up if he wanted to, or he could be as he is.
He can do action. He can do charm. Yeah, I could see him doing that. The other sort of two shows I've enjoyed both being on Apple TV, one of which, both I've just finished recently. One is Shrinking. Jason Segel's, and it's the guy makers of Ted Lasso. So it's Bill Lawrence and Brett Goldstein, our UK's very own Brett Goldstein. It's a great show. Harrison Ford is probably doing some of the best work he's ever done in it. He is fantastic in it. I can't recommend it enough. It's very touching. It's hilarious. It's really good, really feel good. Really enjoyed that.
I think it's better than Ted Lasso. I think the problem I have with Ted Lasso. I think the problem I have with Lasso is the fact that it's the American take on an English. I think it's the English, it's the Britishness that takes me out of it. I'm like, I struggle with it. Whereas I feel more comfortable with Shrinking. I
get what you mean about Ted Lasso. You can see it's a bit like the Netflix thing where they've like made it appealing to an international audience. Like, oh yeah, this is what the UK is like.
This is a Cockney gentleman.
Yeah.
But because that's what I mean about Ted Lasso is that Lasso is I really like all the American bits.
Yeah,
isn't it? I struggle with the Brit counterparts, but no, for this I do enjoy Shrinking. I love seeing Harrison Ford in this format. I think what I love about what works really well in streaming is character development. There's no rush. There doesn't have to be an arc that is defined, a character arc that's defined in 90 minutes or whatever. So I like that, and I think he's enjoying it. And as you say, I'm only in the first season. I don't know. I think there's probably something wrong with me, but I struggle with some of the supporting actors in it. Other than who's the main guy from How I Met
Jason Segel.
Apart from him and Harrison Ford, I struggle with some of the people that keep the story going, and maybe it's the premise or what they actually do. I like the comedy in it, but it's got that Californiitis thing that a lot of lazy ass shows have, which is it's all shot in LA. Yeah, it's like, well, it's cheap. We don't have to go anywhere. But like, I could write you a list of like 50 shows that all do. So we'll just shoot it here.
Yeah.
Just shoot it here. We don't need to go anywhere. And it's like, I find that a bit grating now when we see what the Mandalorian can create entire planets with a few screens behind it, that we're still shooting everything in California. It's like, at least make it look different. But I think they kind of do that to cater to the film industry in California. They make shows about California to raise awareness of California.
Got to keep the industry, got to keep the wheels greased.
It's this weird thing. So, like, I don't think I have that much in-depth knowledge about a residential area more than I do about California.
And yeah, I realise we've been talking for a while, so we'll wrap up soon. But we touched on it earlier, but Terminator Zero.
I'm bored of this. Yeah, let's move on.
Terminator Zero. So
wow, just Very similar parallels with Blue-Eyed Samurai. Wasn't expecting it. Wasn't expecting to like it as much. And when I started watching it, I think I watched one episode a night. Went through it in a week.
Yeah,
you know?
But it shows, and it's something that you and I have chatted about. Obviously we're huge fans of the Terminator franchise, good and bad. We've stuck with it and watched all the films. But it shows that there is so much life and there's so much, lore to explore. There's so much you can do with the mythology of Terminator, and whilst still honouring it and having some nods, I think that was it. It was just, it felt so fresh and different and its own thing, but yet still honouring a lot of the key themes and stuff from Terminator. I think, it was just, I was surprised at how good it was.
Well, I mean, we cover it I think we talked about it on Patreon channel, but it's so fresh. It shows how to do a legacy, because they're doing like, we talked about it earlier on this episode about Alien Romulus, where you feel like, oh, this is now an Aliens reference. This is an Alien Resurrection reference. It's like you can link each reference with a film. You can't with Terminator Zero. You can't. They flip things around. So there's a siege on a police force, but it's the wrong way round. And yes, one of the Terminators looks like a cop, and they're not just relying on reusing dialogue to remind you. It's like,
it's not that heavy-handed.
Because of the freedom of animation, they can do so much more, and they tweak the Terminators. They tweak the story. There's the usual twists you expect, and then there's that. I feel like one of the most thrilling ends to any Terminator film there has ever been, because all of the other Terminator films is he going to get... Well, of course he's not going to catch them, and of course they're going to kill it at the end. But you stay wrapped to see how they do it. Whereas in this, it goes somewhere else. It goes completely to like a Christopher Nolan... it could go either way, and I'm not going to spoil it, but it's a very high-level intellectual...
Yeah, I'm tempted to go back because it throws so much at you in those last few episodes.
And in the beginning as well. It's like, again, let's give... I think we've talked about the strengths of both in this episode. We're reviewing on past and present, but we want to go to the cinema to see films like Dune. Or films with an audience that we can laugh with Beetlejuice. But for streaming, for stuff, to get stuff like this where, I'd love to see a Terminator animated film. Actually, correction, I don't want to see a film. If it's animated, I'd actually like to see 8 episodes of it. And if it works, I'd like to see another season. And we were talking about it before, but one of the things, maybe it was the same for you, that because I'd seen Blue-Eyed Samurai pop up, but one of the things that spurred me on to watch it was like, another season is coming.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so it's passed the Netflix test. It's good. I should check this out.
Yeah, and you're not going to be left with a cliffhanger that never gets resolved. Well, not for at least another couple of seasons.
So they can coexist, streaming and cinema. We just need to embrace them accordingly.
In terms of what I still need to watch, on my watch list, I've got Shogun, which is on Disney. It's won lots of awards. It's supposed to be beautiful, really well acted. It's got our friend, what's his name, Hiro Tanaka, is it? The guy that's in John Wick and stuff.
I think he's called Scorpion. It's called Scorpion.
Mr. Scorpion, sir. The Penguin. Penguin.
I'm sorry, but it's a bit like that Gotham series. Is Batman in it?
Yes, but it is. It's sort of like, and those we haven't touched on those terrible Spider-Man films that Sony keep making. Hey, this one's about Craven. This one's about Madam Web.
Madam Web. That was the turkey that neither of us saw.
Yeah, because apparently it's so bad it's not even fun. But yeah, getting back to TV, I still need to watch Slow Horses. Everyone keeps telling me you need to watch Slow Horses. It'll change your life. I think they're on the 4th series now. So yeah, I really need to I think I am.
I've had similar people, and it's the Apple police. People banging, people turning up outside your door. You know, like saying,
"Have you subscribed? Have you subscribed?"
Apple's actually got the best quality. It has actually got the best quality. It has got, and it's like, I'm not sure you have. I think you've really just got Severance and a lot of other very glossy.
Well,
anyway,
the one I missed, and I think you've seen it, but we've both read the book, Dark Matter.
Oh yeah, it's great. Yeah, I mean, it's great. I'm annoyed because it's obviously taken one of the best authors of the moment, Blake Crouch. He's producing it, you know, like.
And when he's producing, he's not writing. It's not fair.
I guess he's striving. So his books are amazing. You will lose yourself in them, and actually, I feel like I want him to prove himself with this, so they will make a film of Recursion.
Oof.
Which is one of the most
bonkers.
Give it to Christopher. You can't give it to Christopher Nolan, but give it to Denis Villeneuve and make But this guy's science fiction is off the charts. So
it's very Philip K. Dickian.
Yeah, and the very, very clever casting is that they give the role of the main actor, who is both the protagonist and also playing the roles of the protagonist antagonists in this, an actor who you kind of like, but you're also not sure if he's a dick.
Joel Edgerton.
Joel Edgerton. You're like, you've never forgiven him since The Phantom Menace. You've never got over it. Sorry, it's the other one.
Revenge of the Sith. He plays Uncle Owen.
Yeah, you've never got over that. And you're like, he leans into both. He's like a really nice guy, and you think, he should be, you know, he's the guy that we want to root for, but also you're like, he's a dick, kill him.
I've also put in my the last note, Marvel, Star Wars, is it even worth discussing? There hasn't been much Marvel this year. There's
no. Let's talk about Star Wars because even if it's just for a moment, because I haven't watched it, it's just been on repeat in my house since it came out, and I will repeat somebody else that wrote on Blue Sky something similar. It's like Star Wars made for kids works.
Oh, is it Skeleton Crew? The
originals were, and that's why Skeleton Crew works. It's made for kids. It's made for kids, and it's good. The kids love it. They're watching it on repeat, and they'll probably grow up with it, and they'll probably go on and on about it like we do about Star Wars.
I started watching it last night, and got the sort of Spielberg sort of kids in the suburbs, but the space suburbs is very much on the nose. But I need to watch more of it. And I saw someone else say on Blue Sky that it's refreshing to watch a Star Wars TV show that doesn't rely on, what do you mean you haven't seen the 500 animated episodes and 5 series of Clone Wars? What do you mean you don't get that reference? Yeah. It exists in its own little bubble. Star Wars bubble that you don't, a bit like Andor, which obviously season 2.
The best stuff. The best stuff, just make it. And even Mandalorian, you could say the same. The stuff that works, and I think the best example of that is when they went to do Boba Fett. It's like, stop, just leave the old stuff. Leave it alone. Yeah. And it's the same problem I had with the Acolyte. It's like, they tried to do it different, but they didn't do it in the same style. They tried to cater for a different audience. It's like, guys who like Star Wars will always like Star Wars, even if they are different ages. You know, it's like, but the type of people who like Star Wars. The problem I had with the Acolyte was they totally changed everything, went for a different audience with a different story, with different types of different narratives and different.
Trying to shake it up too much.
No, but they lost everybody. They lost, and it's like your loyal fan base will go to see anything you make. So just keep servicing them, but not too much. So there's that. And as for Marvel, I still haven't seen the Hugh Jackson cash grab. So until I have, we probably shouldn't talk about. I don't know if anybody else has heard of it because I don't think it did very much marketing. I can't remember. It was Ryan Reynolds or somebody. I can't remember the name of the film. I can't remember it. I didn't see it enough. Anyway, we may cover it at some point.
We may. Well, let's leave it there. I think we are going to cover we've hit you over the head a few times in this episode, but on Patreon we'll probably do a little bit of an episode of what we're looking forward to for 2025.
Okay.
So if you're a patron listener, watch out for that in your feed.
For this episode, I've been Charlie McGee.
I've been George McGee.
And we will see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.